hey, I need something from you, giving her a purpose, and then saying, by the way, I see you, I know you.
Yeah.
And then saying, I love you. And then saying, hey, dude, there's another way you could do this, right?
Yeah.
And I think doing it in that order would be pretty compelling for people struggling all over the country.
Welcome to the Hope in Real Life podcast with Jason Gore. Our team is passionate and committed to bringing you more hope in the everyday, real areas of your life. If this conversation and content is valuable for you, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and even share. You never know how valuable it could be to share a little bit of hope with someone else. Let's get the conversation started. Hope in Real Life family, we are back with our second episode with Dr. John Delony, which is really a part of the same episode that we just broke into two because the conversation was going so great. We wanted to keep it going. Thanks for tuning back in. Let's get it going. You say regularly, and this kind of piggybacking on what you just said, you are worth being well. And which is, that's kind of the next step into, like you think, leaving is better for other people. And I'm a guy that's, I've experienced suicide from people close to me, and which it rocks you in a way because you go down that road of like, oh my gosh, how did you get, number one, how did I miss this? But number two, how did you really get to a place to where you thought we'd be better? But why do you think we lack that basic belief of like, hey, no, we're just worth being well. And we actually are worth knowing that we do add value to those that are around us in our lives.
I mean, it goes back to that earlier. We just live in a culture of disempowerment. I mean, people lose their livelihoods for thought crimes, for thinking the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People lose, there's no place to ask questions, for discourse. You, Jason, you could get up on this Sunday, and say, hey, I've been wrestling with X, Y, and Z recently. I'm going to do a study in my house, and they might fire you, right? I mean, This is our lives. This is all of us.
Yeah.
And so the easiest thing in the world to do is to just be quiet.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking at somebody and saying, hey, losing 40 pounds is going to be really, really hard, real hard. All right, she cheated on you and y'all been married for 19 years. I think this thing is worth saving. And it's going to be real hard because y'all got to build an entirely new marriage because what you had is over now. There's no reclaiming. It's over. Y'all got to build something new, and it's going to be real hard. If you don't think you're even worth the effort, then you're not going to do it. Yeah. And nothing of value is accomplished without effort. And so I think I say that all the time, and I've got some buddies, like military dudes, who give me a hard time about it. They're like, bro, okay, I'm worth being. But at the end of the day, Jason, you had to believe when the doctor looked at you, like, hey, your heart's great. You're going to have to change how you live.
Yeah.
And you had to, at somewhere way down inside, believe, I don't even know what this means, but I got to go sit in front of a therapist. What the world? And I can't flex my way out. I can't bench press my way out.
Right.
I can't single leg my way out of this one. I just have to, right? You have to believe you're worth that effort because it's going to be hard, right? And so I just say it over and over and over again because I think most people don't believe I'm even worth the effort it's going to take to have a more peaceful, healthier life.
I'm going to throw one other question out at you, and then I'm going to dig into something else a little more fun. But what would you say to someone who is experiencing a debilitative anxiety, but at the same time would also say, I have no idea where it's coming from?
I go back to the great David Kessler, who I think the world's greatest, wisest voice on grief. And he says, grief demands a witness. It has to be heard. Doesn't have to be fixed. In fact, you can't fix grief. And I think the same applies for anxiety, for OCD, for depression, for anything you're wrestling with. The human experience demands a witness. Every theological practice in human history, Christian or not, has a communal aspect where people get in front of each other, and it's called confession of some sort. And I think we've wrapped our head around confession. Say all the bad things that you've done. I don't think that's the origin. I think theologically the origin of confession is sitting in front of somebody and saying out loud. And as the great C.S. Lewis says, the definition of friendship is, oh, you too? Right? I think you sit down in front of somebody and you say, I'm so scared I can't breathe. My body keeps acting like somebody's coming in the front door with a hatchet, and I know nobody's coming there, and I don't know what is trying to get my attention. can you help me? Or will you sit there? Can I just talk through some things? And I mean, that was the point of the book. Here's a roadmap.
Yeah.
Here's a roadmap. If your body is reacting in a way that is debilitating with anxiety, it's probably trying to get your attention in one of a few areas. Let's just start poking around and see what we find. And I think the overarching thing, Jason, we got to stop going to war against our own bodies.
Yeah.
Our bodies are pretty amazing. They're intuitive. They're designed well. It's when we have pathologized every normal experience. If your husband leaves you, you're supposed to be sad. If your daughter gets her heart broken by some punk kid and you'll go to jail if you hit him, so you just got to kind of take it. You're supposed to be heartbroken with her, right? If your wife got laid off and she's terrified and she's kind of taking it out on you, you should be sad, right? Like, these are normal human experiences. These is the way we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to race off and try to solve it. So let's get some people in our life, 1 person, 2 person, 5 person, a good pastor, a therapist if you got to, and let's begin speaking some of these things out loud.
Yeah, that whole concept of actually engaging your feelings and sensing them and owning them for what they are has probably been the singular most beneficial thing for me in walking through counseling. I don't have any desire to. I think just because I've gone through some hard things, and so what you learn is you just turn that dial off and you just don't feel it, and you stuff it, and you don't deal. It's like, no, I don't feel that. But what happens is when you do that, you don't feel the good either. You don't feel the joy either. You don't. Right. And but what
joy and anxiety are on the same switch. You flip the whole thing off. Yeah. Or you can take meds and turn the whole thing off, and it'll shut off the anxiety, but it'll show off the reason for being alive too.
And what I'm learning is our feelings actually show us what our real need is, and how we can turn back to God and how He can meet that need.
Yeah.
You mentioned your book. You try to set out a roadmap. So this is the brief cliff note. You still got to buy the book, but
no, you don't, man. You can get it. You can get it all here.
So you map out 6 daily choices, right? So the choosing reality, choosing connection, choosing freedom, choosing mindfulness, choosing health and healing, choosing belief. Could you just briefly unpack that? And then I'm going to dig down into a couple of them that I think will be fun, but could just briefly unpack what that means to choose those things over what else might come natural to us?
Yeah. I look at it like putting on deodorant and brushing your teeth. If quickly, and the longer you do this, I've been doing this for a decade now. So the longer you do it, it just becomes really rapid fire. But you got to be honest about your baseline. Is your job going to go away? Is your wife in your marriage, are you just having a rough day, or is your marriage in a tough season? You need to sit down and discuss this. What's the state of your finances? It's this idea of choosing reality and understanding that we live in a culture designed to distract us and pull us away from our own bodies. And so, are you truly, really, seriously unlovable? Really? Really? Like, let's choose reality. Let's ask that question. When your body knows you're disconnected from reality, it will sound every alarm it's got to bring you back to baseline, because your body's always in reality.
Yeah.
The second one is connection. We've created the loneliest generation in human history. Yeah. We talked about it earlier, but if you don't have anybody to hold your arms up when things get sideways, if you don't have someone to call to pick up your son while you're sitting with your wife in the ER, your body knows you're responsible for provision, protection, for the front, the back, the flanks. It would be failing you if it let you sleep all night.
Yeah.
Your body would be failing you if it let you have a deep, connected, intimate moment with your wife or husband, because it's not time for intimacy. It's time to not die, right? And that's how we live most of our lives. The loneliest generation that's ever lived. Yeah. And especially it doesn't count if it's on phones, or if you're just nodding at Little League dads along the sidelines. Those aren't your friends. Those aren't your ride or dies, man. You got to have some people. Freedom goes back to who's running your life. Most Americans can't come up with $500 to $1,000 in an emergency. You may be cool with that. Your nervous system is not. If you own a mortgage and you own car payments and you own credit card payments, your body knows you are not in control of your life. God is not your priority that day. Lexus Motor Company is. Chevy Motor Company is the one telling you, I don't care how you feel. Your butt's going to work. I don't care how abusive that boss is. You're going to work. I don't care how sick your kid is. Find somebody to keep them. You're going to work. And we've created lives. Debt used to be a way to capture a whole group of people. And that's just the way we live now. And we can come up with all the great payment plans, and we had a bigger car and a faster car, whatever, cool. But your nervous system knows if you say one wrong thing and you lose your job, you lose your house, you lose your car, you lose your food. And again, it would be failing you if it let you sleep.
Yeah.
That's just basic human biology. Calendars, we are enslaved to calendars that are so packed. If you're 10 minutes late on a Monday meeting, your whole week's shot. Clutter, we're surrounded by stuff. How many of our mother-in-laws are still running our lives, right? Forcing us to go on vacations that we can't afford.
You might be listening to this, so I'm not.
Your mother's amazing. My mother-in-law's amazing.
Yeah,
my mother-in-law's amazing.
We're not talking about ours. It's
You were talking about yours before we started, but I'll leave that between y'all two.
Hope in Real Life family, I want to take a moment and let you know about a resource that we have for you for your own personal development, spiritual enrichment, and really a way for you to find a bit more hope in real life. We have a tool for you called the Hope in Real Life app. It offers things like parenting tips, financial resources, marriage insights. If you're looking for it, there's even Bible reading plans in there. And there's a community where you can even share prayer requests and know that someone is praying for you for whatever it is that you have going on in your life. It's available right now in the Apple App Store or in Google Play. You can search Hope in Real Life in both stores, or you can use the download link that is in the show notes. Remember, tomorrow can be better than today, and hope is possible even in real life.
Choosing mindfulness, here's all that is. Jocko calls it detachment. It's this idea that I don't have to respond.
Yeah.
I don't have to respond to my 6-year-old or my 6th grader when he goes, "You pick up your clothes." I don't have to respond.
Yeah.
Sometimes the greatest response is to just say nothing. When that guy cuts me off in traffic on the way to church, I don't have to scream and yell and let the international wave of "I love you" that only has one finger on it. I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to respond. And mindfulness is simply lengthening the gap between stimulus and response. The thing that just happened, I don't have to grab my phone. I don't have to grab a drink. I don't have to respond to that coworker's text that just came in. She laughs at all my jokes and she makes me feel a little bit more alive. I don't have to respond to that, but I do need to ask myself, why am I even tempted to respond to that? I've been married to this other person for 15 years, right? Mindfulness is simply deciding I'm going to take ownership of my actions and my thoughts. I'm going to practice it over time. Real hard to do. Health and healing. If you're not well, you're not whole, if you haven't dealt with those childhood traumas, if the things that kept, I'll say it this way, the things that kept you safe as a kid, if you knew as a kid, when dad got home, you should probably just lay low, go in your room and shut the door. Or it was your job to get between dad and mom when he got home because he was angry and he wouldn't hit you as hard as her. Those same things those same responses will destroy your adult relationships. And when your wife drives up, you'll head to the bedroom. And when your wife walks in the door, you'll be geared up for a fight. And our nervous system remembers those things. You got to heal those things, or that's how stuff gets passed generationally. You got to take care of your physical body. And I think as a church, we need to swan dive in the middle of that one. And it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of conversations in the Bible about gluttony and a lot of conversations about physical health and the body being a temple. And we like to make the body as a temple be about not saying bad words and looking at pornography. But man, if our bodies aren't healthy, our minds aren't healthy. Right. That's a curse of the modern time that we've divorced mental health from physical health. It's all health, man. Yeah. If I wake up and last night I went to a dinner, just father-son dinner, and I got off the rails, dude. Off the rails. When the woman came and said, "Hey, I don't figure you two guys want dessert," and I was like, "I don't know about this guy, but I do." My son's eyes got as big as he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." Jason, I was so uncomfortable last night. I felt terrible. I felt like I'd blown up a balloon inside my body. It was awful. Yeah. This morning I woke up, skipped my workout. I just start eating garbage this morning. I'm grabbing candy out of the candy dish here. I had a pizza for lunch. It's like, oh, here we go. We're going old John's back. And I don't think right. I snap at my team. I'm a little bit short with my kids, right? It all works together. And so I have to choose. I've got to choose health. And that's scary and shameful and has a whole bunch of baggage to it, but it is what it is. The last one is, and this was the hardest chapter for me to write because I didn't want to write it. I wanted this book to be very scientific and very mental healthy and yada, yada. And all the psychological literature, faith-based and otherwise, all of it, dude, points to the fact that you have to plug into something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Period. There is a God as much as you don't want there to be. And all of the data says a religious practice, a belief in something bigger than you gives you a better, more peaceful life. It gives you better relationships. I hate to ROI it like this, but your finances are like every metric is better. I had a mentor of mine once who had us meditate on the Sermon on the Mount for years. And just the Sermon on the Mount, just Sermon on the Mount, just Sermon on the Mount. And he said, if Jesus was truly part of a triune God, then he's the smartest guy who's ever walked the earth. Let's read his review packet for how to live a good life, and let's stamp that on our souls. And so I like that idea of, no, I'm not just here doing this for fun. Like, I'm doing this because I want you to have the most peaceful, or as he says, fruitful life.
Yeah.
And here's the path, man. If you don't lie, you don't lose sleep trying to figure out what the truth was. If you don't kill somebody, you don't have a whole bunch of people at your door trying to kill you, right? Here's a path towards, because by the way, here's the whole picture of the book. This doesn't inoculate you from the call that your mom's going to have Alzheimer's, or that dad got cancer, or that your buddy just died by suicide, or that your friend just cheated on his wife, and y'all are all a friend group, and this just blew up everything. What it does is it gives you margin, and it gives you thought, and it gives you peace for when those moments come.
Yeah.
And you find yourself face down on the garden saying, God, can it please not be this way? But if so, here we go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what this is for.
Yeah. I so connect with that because we were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on here, but that's a large part of why this podcast exists. I mean, we have a team of people that deeply believe that there's a world full of folks that don't have hope. And we want to do everything that we can do to bring them hope. Now, look, there's nothing hidden behind the curtain here. I deeply believe that happens once we do start understanding there is something bigger than ourselves. I believe that just so happens to be the Son of God, who is Jesus Christ. And I believe we find hope in his life, death, and resurrection, in the life that he calls us into. But man, we know that less and less people in today's world are waking up on Sunday morning and saying, I've been watching the news a lot lately, and I think what I really need to do is I just need to find a good church. Like, that's just not happening. And so we're doing everything. That's what this is about. And it's why I appreciate your work. We're trying to get into the spaces and places where people are, where you can say, hey, listen, you might not believe all this stuff today, but I want you to know that you can get on a road that will ultimately lead you to hope.
Well, let me, and again, you can edit this part out too, because I know it's a little bit inside baseball. I went through a period, several years. I was the dean of students at a faith-based university, and atheist is probably too strong a word, but I was profoundly agnostic. I was like, a fish ate a dude. Like, I'm done with this story. Like, come on. And I was just out. And my wife, she was Dr. Delony way before me. She said, I get it. Totally get it. And one of our core values in our home is curiosity. We're always allowed to ask any question and kind of follow any rabbit hole. And we don't hold each other that tightly to certain beliefs. And she said, but you know as well as I do, the literature, the scientific literature, because we were both nerds. If you go to church and a family goes to church and a family has lunch together around a table, and a family shows up and participates in service, that every part of their life is improved. Yeah. So there was something powerful about, even in those years, I didn't believe any of the stuff being said. And I sat there with my arms crossed, pulling apart everything the pastor was talking about. That the practice itself was restorative and healing and valuable. And I was really challenged recently when somebody I was talking to started laughing when I was talking about the decline of church attendance. And he goes, dude, church attendance in the United States is not declining. It's the opposite. It's going up. And I looked at him funny, and he goes, yeah, they're just not meeting at your dumb building. They're meeting at the CrossFit gym, and they're meeting at bar class, and they're meeting at, like, I went and spoke to a bar class the other day that was doing a book study after class. And I thought, oh, this is church. They're doing this here. And it occurred to me, I think that the greatest gift the church could give people now is a conversation about life 101. I think I need a church to give me a path forward. And I don't care about your politics. I don't care about yelling. I don't care about who we hate. Will you please just tell me how to be a good dad? I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to do it like my dad did it. And I don't know how to be married, surrounded by pornography and an egalitarian work system. This has never happened in human history. Can you just teach me how to do this instead of just yelling at me every Sunday? And I can almost guarantee you that a church that opened its doors and said, yeah, us too, come sit down, would be so overwhelmed with people showing up. And it's not a watering down of the gospel. I think it's Jesus going to the woman at the well and seeing her and violating all social convention and saying, hey, I need something from you, giving her a purpose. And then saying, by the way, I see you, I know you. Yeah. And then saying, I love you. And then saying, hey, dude, there's another way you could do this. Right. Yeah. And I think doing it in that order would be pretty compelling for people struggling all over the country.
Hope in Real Life family, I want to pause for a moment and let you know about an opportunity that I believe can help you find a bit more hope in everyday life. Listen, I know a lot of our viewers probably aren't a part of a church, or maybe you gave up on the church a long time ago. And believe me, possibly for good reason. I understand. But I don't want you to miss out on the hope that you can actually experience by journeying alongside of a group of people that really are seeking God's best for their lives. If you are the least bit curious, we try to make this as simple for you as we possibly can. Wherever it is that you digest digital content, podcasts, you can go to the podcast store. You can check it out on YouTube and just search Hope Community Church. You'll be able to find our messages there and check those out. Or if you actually want to tune in during a service time, you can go to gethope.tv at 4:15 or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you can tune in at 9:30 or 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's at gethope.tv. We hope that you'll take a chance with us and experience what it is God has for you in your life. You're going to find practical messages that will help you find hope in the everyday moments of your life. Hope you'll check it out.
I want to jump into one other thing here. We'll have a little bit of fun before we have to sign off. Out of all the choices here, the 6 that you mentioned, some of those come easier for other people. The health and wellness and the side of, hey, I'm going to step into the gym for 60 to 90 minutes. That's like the world's greatest therapy for me. And I know spending time in the gym is something for you as well. Talk a little bit about, just what that means for you, having some time to jump into the gym, what you like to do, and how you find that actually adds value to your, not just your mental health, but your overall holistic health.
That's a great question.
What's your favorite thing to do to stay in shape?
Very few things give me as much peace. And I wish I had a different word from that. I wish I had like a more hardcore word than that. Few things give me more peace, make me a better dad, allow me to be a more present husband than going down and lifting really heavy for about an hour.
Yeah.
I like jujitsu. I like rolling around. I've gotten into rucking a lot the last few years. And, my wife's kind of sick of me coming up with new fancy backpacks, filled with shenanigans and trying to get her to walk down in the woods with me. But
she should call my wife. She'll probably feel better.
Jeez, we got so many gadgets. I got a new red light the other day, and she's like, "Wow, that's exactly what I was thinking we needed." Something. But I like those practices. But there's something about now that it's not pathological. It used to be I was unwell, and it was me versus me in an unwell. Like I was working from a place of you're a piece of crap. As my therapist once told me, John, your ticker tape that runs underneath the story of your life is that you're a piece of crap. You're a piece of crap. You're a piece of crap. And I developed a close friendship with a guy named Sal who he's one of the hosts of the Mind Pump show. Those guys are great. It's a fitness, health and fitness podcast. But off air, we were talking and he looked at me and he said, John, if you're always walking into the gym to work out because you think you're disgusting, you think you look gross, he said, you will work out, you'll overwork out, you'll go too hard, too quick, and you'll quit every time. That's a recipe for quitting. He said, if you open your eyes every morning and say, I'm going to go be a great dad, I'm going to have an awesome day, and I'm worth an hour where I just go invest in me so that I could. This is my time this is my time while my buddies are like, right, this is Jesus and the apostles are falling asleep on him and he's going to pray. This is like, you get an hour, dude, so that you can go be who you need to be. And you do it as an investment in yourself, not as a way to punish yourself.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that was like a light switch came on for me, and it has become one of my greatest gifts in the morning to myself. I just love it.
Yeah. Either Haley or Elena, one of the ladies on our team here, asked me. We had a guest on earlier. We filmed another episode earlier, and the woman is very involved in Burn Boot Camp, and so it was either Haley or Elena asked me. So Jason, you do the Burn Boot Camp thing, right? Which I'm not sure if you're familiar with Burn Boot Camp.
I don't know what it is.
It's kind of like CrossFit, but it's largely for women. And look, I think there's some guys that do it. And if there's a guy listener that does it, that's awesome. I said, no, I don't do Burn Boot Camp. And she's like, what do you do then to stay in shape? And my answer was something along the lines of, I like to lift heavy circles so that I can lift heavier circles. And that's kind of my therapy for myself. So yeah, I mean, I love it, man. Well, listen, I know we're coming up on time here. I want to get you back on the show at some point because we didn't get a chance to get into what I think a conversation that needs to be had about how we just don't want to do hard things and how we were made to do hard things, and how that I think we're constantly looking for the easier way. We're constantly looking for the easy way out, not realizing it's destroying us, and it's destroying our ability to face anything that pops up. And so I'd love to get you back at some point, and maybe we can chew on that a little bit. And
anytime, man. I'm really honored by your mission and what y'all are trying to do out in the world. I think that's amazing. And for those of you listening, if you're like, dude, I appreciate the insights. I don't buy any of the Harry Potter oogity boogity stuff. Like, just know I'm with you. I've been there with you too. Just hang in there, keep showing up and keep showing up. I don't know how to say this in a less delicate way, but God's real. Yeah. And there is a piece when you plug into something bigger than yourself, man, that just transcends everything.
Yeah. John, last question for you really quickly. I try to ask every guest this, but what are you most hopeful for in your life over the next 5 years?
Oh boy. My wife came home. I worked through spring break this year, and my wife took our two kids to Missouri for a thing they do every year with a group of our friends, big group of friends. And my wife got home. My son's 14. He's finishing 8th grade. And she looked at me and she said, "Hey, you've got 4." And I was like, "For what?" And she said, "You have 4 more spring breaks and he's gone." And my heart dropped. I was like, whew. And she goes, "I hope the work was worth it this time." And I was like, no, it was terrible, man. Like, no. Anyway, I started to practice back when my son was in 5th grade that we would go to breakfast every Tuesday morning. We go real early, and because we live out in rural Tennessee, we go to a Waffle House. That's the only place we got. So I'm getting connected to my son and diabetes. It's every week. But I hope in 5 years, my son will be a freshman in college. My daughter will be heading into high school. And I hope that my home continues to be a place that I continue to be a place that when the world gets sideways, my kids drop their shoulders and they go, "I'm going to go see Dad."
That's good.
That my home continues to be a non-radioactive, safe place where they can anchor into so they can go out in the world and do the crazy things that need to be done out there to help heal this madness.
Love that. John, thank you so much for spending time with us. Greatly appreciate it. Look forward to having you back. To our listeners, listen, we all know that we know folks in our life that are struggling with anxiety. I can't encourage you. Please do what you can. It takes 10 seconds to take an episode and to share it with somebody else. You never know how much hope you're going to actually be able to bring to someone who desperately needs it. We'll have all the links to the things that we talked about, including a link to be able to pick up John's book, Building a Non-Anxious Life. Would strongly recommend it. Incredibly beneficial for me. John, it's been great. Thank you so much for the time.
I'm grateful for you, man. Let's hang out in person someday.
Yes, sir. All right. See you guys next episode. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hope in Real Life podcast. If this content was valuable for you, don't forget, like, subscribe, share. You never know how important it could be to bring a little hope into someone else's life. There's even a place here for you to comment. We would love to hear from you and hear your feedback. Until next time, let's keep sharing hope.